Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I have started a fire to my right here, smoking those leaves, producing a smoke to help the cleansing of the spirit, cleansing of this moment here today. As we are standing here today, we are indeed standing in Yorta Yorta Country. We pay our respects to the elders past, because it's through the challenges that they faced in the past that lay the foundation, the knowledge that allowed me to be here today to welcome you, to produce the smoke, to help cleanse the spirit. So we pay our respects to the elders past. We also pay respects to the elders present, those amongst us today, and those amongst us in our community that we know. It is through their strength and resilience that is now laying the next foundation for the younger generation to spring from, to prosper from. And of course, we pay our respects to the young and emerging leaders, those amongst us today, those we know within our homes, and we often, as elders, as uncles, as aunties, fathers, mothers, we always say to the younger generation, I want you to have more than what I have ever had. I want you to go forth into community, with community, and spread the good word. And I want you to have a prosperous life, a better life, something that goes beyond my wildest dreams. And I will be here as the foundation to lay that next layer for you to push forward from, to have something that I could have dreamed of. And thus, we give our blessings and pay our respects to the young and emerging leaders and offer them a prosperous future, something that is embedded within today, within Laudato Si, within our environment, within country. At the end of the day, it's what we do here that lays the foundation for the next generation, our future. So with that, I'd like to welcome you all here to Yorta Yorta Waka, to the Dungala, the Kaila, to home, to community. Thank you.
Thank you to Troy Fire Brace for welcoming us to country in the most appropriate setting on the banks of the Broken Creek. We are proud to have Troy as an Aboriginal educator with Catholic Education Sandhurst. I'm Kate Buer, and with me are Eliza Wood and Zara Limbrick. We are the social justice captains at St Mary of the Angels College here in Nathalia, and we are your MCs for the day. I'd like to introduce our guest today, Bishop Shane Mackinlay of the Sandhurst Diocese, Richard Landles, Caritas Australia Advancement Director, Father Brian Boyle, Sandhurst Episcopal Vicar for Education, Bernard Holland, Caritas Australia Community Engagement Director, Sue Martin, Catholic Earthcare Australia Coordinator, Dr. Chris Cotter, Sandhurst Director of Pastoral Life and Ministry, Paul Desmond, CEO Catholic Education Sandhurst Limited, Brom Hayes, Caritas Director Sandhurst Diocese, Romina Martinello, Caritas Director Melbourne Archdiocese, Julian Hogbin, Caritas Director Ballarat Diocese, Caroline Veit-Kunis, Melbourne Laudato Si Group and Columban's Peace, Ecology and Justice Office, and Matt Carver, Principal of St Mary of the Angels College, Nathalia, who are our hosts today. And we introduce Sister Geraldine Larkins from Catholic Education Sandhurst, whose strong support has been instrumental in this event happening today. We welcome them and each and every one of you here present because, to paraphrase Pope Francis, the future is fundamentally in the hands of people like yourselves in your ability to organise. It is your hands which can guide with humility and conviction this process of change. I'd now like to invite Sue Martin, Coordinator of Catholic Earthcare Australia, to the microphone.
And thank you so much, Kate. So I'm Sue Martin from Sydney, and it is such a pleasure to be here in Sandhurst, Nathalia, with you all. And so I do hope we can just immerse that we're here in God's creation and we're all connected. Those birds are talking to us. So the water is talking to us and the sun is talking to us. So I won't speak for too long because I know God's creation is talking to us. But I do want to celebrate that Sandhurst is launching their Laudato Si action plan. And I am here with all the earth carers in Sandhurst, and I love it. I just love it. So I do want to acknowledge all you earth carers out there. But before I begin, I too want to acknowledge that I come from other country, and I thank Troy for his beautiful acknowledgement of country. I come from Durrag. I'm a Durragland, and I pay my respects to the elders where I am, the beautiful aunties, where we're all from, and I just want to acknowledge that this land needs us, and we need to be really listening to the wisdom of the elders as we become earth carers. I also want to acknowledge that our time, our earth is calling, and we must listen. And so I acknowledge the context of the world that we're in, that we as earth carers and the Catholic Church of Australia need to be active and out there and having our head, our hearts and our hands creating the Australia that we need and we want. So I just acknowledge that the context in which we're meeting today, the earth is crying out. I want to just share that I have been on the earth care journey for feels like 100 years, but it's not. So earth care started in 2002, and sometimes Charles Roux tells me, no, there was a conversation in 2001, but in 2002, the Australian bishops came together and wrote a beautiful social justice statement, and earth care began. So it came out of the Australian Bishops Committee, and for there it was for many years, and you can see our journey there with the appointment of Cole Brown as director, and earth care became the heart of the ecological journey for the Catholic Church in Australia. It's been on a really interesting journey, like our rivers, like all journeys, up and down. And so Earth Care, in its journey, is now part of Caritas Australia. And as that agency that is really the heart of social justice in our Catholic Church, Earth Care is there as a program of Caritas Australia, and as we blossom within that agency, Earth Care is going to be growing in what it can do to work with you as schools, parishes and families, and maybe hospitals. Maybe we blossom even further. But at the moment, Earth Care is this place where we can support you on your journey to be Laudato Si communities, in parishes, in schools, in families. And it's up to us working together. It's not that I have the answers or Kerry has the answers, but I think Kerry's got lots of answers to help us. And it's not that Bishop Shane has the answers, but together we can do it. Together we can do it. And so I am just really thrilled that Earth Care can be here on the banks of Broken Creek, and be in creation as we celebrate 20 years. So thank you. And I'm going to pass it back to Kate or Mara. Here you go, Mara.
Hi, I'm Zara, and on your behalf, I'd like to thank Sue for sharing the Earthcare story with us and for your personal passion and commitment to leading us in caring for our common home. I'd now like to ask our Bishop, Shane Mackinlay, to address us regarding the perspective of the Australian bishops and our own diocesan journey.
There's a spare pair of glasses here in case I lost mine. Thanks, Sue, very generous of you. Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to everyone who has helped to arrange today and to host us here so generously and warmly. Congratulations to whoever arranged the cockies as the very vocal representatives of creation. They're making sure that we hear the cry of the earth. I'm delighted that we're able to celebrate together the commitment of the diocese, the commitment particularly of the schools of the diocese to the Laudato Si action platform and its 7 goals. It's one of the documents, not every papal document captures people's imagination, but this is one that really has. It's extraordinary. You see it being quoted by people who have no connection to church, no connection to faith, but who are deeply stimulated and inspired by the vision that Francis has there. And I think the distinctive thing about that is that it's not just talking about consequences. He doesn't just say, we've got to look after our earth because otherwise we're all in trouble. That's true. That's manifestly true. That's very clear to all of us. But he gives a rationale and a way of thinking about ourselves in the context of creation and about God's plan for all of us, and makes this clearly something which has to be a core part of our mission if we're going to live as God's people, and has to be a core part of our mission if we're going to respond to those who are in need. And so that has been picked up, that sort of idea of integral ecology is the fancy name that we give for it. So it's not just about what do we need to do to care for creation, but the idea of ecology in the much broader context of the responsibility for everything about the way that all of creation is connected, including ourselves. So integrating all of that into God's picture of what we are created to be. And seeing those who are in need, those who are most closely affected by and most closely involved with our earth in various ways, as being both prime players in this and prophets for us. So the Australian bishops, when we picked this up last year in our social justice statement, very deliberately echoed Pope Francis's thinking and his language, and our statement last year was called Cry of the Earth, Cry of the Poor. The cry of the earth matters enormously, and part of the way that we come to hear that cry of the earth is not just through the cockies, but through those who are most immediately affected. And so our statement talks about the Indigenous peoples, first of all. It talks about their awareness of what's happening and changing in our world, in their countries, and about their commitment and their modelling of responsible stewardship and care for creation. It talks about the communities that have been increasingly affected by floods and by bushfires, both more regular and more dramatic than had been the case. It talks about our Pacific neighbours and the way that they're affected already by the change in climate. And all of that as being prophetic voices that points us to what the problem is, but also makes clear to us that this is not just about caring for the earth, but this is about ensuring that all of us together are able to live a full and flourishing life as part of God's people in God's world. So that's the first, I think, really helpful and inspiring part of Laudato Si. The second really significant thing, and again part of why it's proving, I think, to not just be something that is still remembered, but is, if anything, getting more momentum, is what's being built up on the basis of that vision. And that's a very practical, this is not just ideas, this is a very practical way of doing something about that. And so Francis sets out in Laudato Si 7 goals, which have been picked up in the Laudato Si action platform, and there's this whole mechanism that's been put in place to assist us and provide a structure and provide suggestions for both inspiring us but also supporting and affirming what we're doing concretely. And that's a great thing about those sort of suggestions, because when we look at the big picture, we can all feel pretty helpless, pretty lost and powerless. It's part of the frustration, I think, that we saw expressed so clearly in the election on Saturday, the federal election, is that sense of powerlessness, because so many decisions are ones that lie at the very macro level, the national or international level. So it's really enormously significant for us to see that there are, alongside those, which are tremendously important, there are also local decisions, which can have a really dramatic impact on the way that we live in the world and the way that we care for our world. And that's what the Laudato Si Action Platform does, is it gives us a way, by signing up to that, as the diocese has, and as Catholic Education has, and as we're asking all of our parishes and organisations to do, to be very practical, very concrete, very down to earth in things that each of us can do in our communities, in our families, in our schools, and in our parishes. We've been very helped with that by finding that as we've started to look for those actions, we found this whole framework that we've been working on for 20 years in Catholic Earthcare. And so this partnership between the Laudato Si Action Platform and here in Australia, Catholic Earthcare, is enormously fruitful in giving us a framework that's already established, already worked out, and that assists us very much in taking practical steps towards those 7 goals. So I'm delighted that and honoured that today we're able, with Catholic Earthcare, to celebrate 20 years of Catholic Earthcare in Australia, and to be affirming the significance of the contribution that Catholic Earthcare has made and the opportunity that it gives us for responding to the Laudato Si Action Platform. That's what Catholic Education has done in this document, this whole very concrete action plan for filling in the blanks that we're launching today for our education sector. So I congratulate those who've been involved in producing this, and I commend it to all of you as both something that can guide your own actions and can inspire you to make your own commitments to the Laudato Si Action Platform and pursuing those goals. So we're now, I think, going to move to the commissioning of representatives from our parishes, organisations and schools. So.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eliza. Thank you, Bishop Shane, for your part in the leadership shown by our bishops and for your personal leadership in this diocese in developing a plan for our diocese. journey into ecological justice. We now move to the commissioning. As we call the name of your parish, organisation or school, we ask two representatives to come forward to stand across the front facing Bishop Shane.
So, sisters and brothers, you stand here as representatives of your organisations, parishes and schools. As a diocese, we have publicly committed to join the worldwide Catholic community in responding to Pope Francis's appeal to participate in a journey towards sustainability and integral ecology by developing a Laudato Si plan to meet the 7 goals which come from Pope Francis's encyclical letter, Laudato Si. Through our partnership with Catholic Earthcare Australia, we've begun the journey towards these 7 goals. And so I ask you now to commit yourselves to those 7 goals. Firstly, I ask you, will you lead your communities in listening to the cry of the earth, considering how your choices will impact the earth and its precious resources? Will you lead your communities in listening to the cry of the poor, considering how your choices will affect all forms of life, especially those who are most vulnerable? Will you lead your communities in a way that considers ecological economics, supporting sustainable, ethical and fair production, consumption and investment? Will you lead your communities in a way that leads to a simpler and sustainable lifestyle, considering ways in which we can use less resources and energy systems as we go about our daily lives? Will you lead your communities in ways that respectfully educate others towards integral ecology, mindfully promoting ecological awareness and action? Will you lead your communities in responding in a way that joyfully praises God and God's creation, encouraging greater contact with the natural world, bringing others into an awareness of creation, and promoting a spirit of wonder, awe, praise, thanksgiving, and joy? Will you lead your communities in ways that promote community involvement and action? Well, I thank you for your generous commitment, and I now commission the parishes, organisations and schools that you represent as members of the Laudato Si Action Plan. I ask you to be faithful to the promises that you have made today. Let us act now together to hear the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. And I invite all here today now, the representatives and all those gathered here, to join together in praying the Earthcare prayer on the back of that brochure. Help us to love and respect the earth, to repair what we have damaged, to care for what you have made good and holy. Give us the wisdom and the passage to change our minds, our hearts and our ways. Amen. Thank you. Would you like to be seated?
And now, we conclude with a very important item on our agenda today, which is to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the establishment of Catholic Earthcare by our Australian bishops. We feel privileged to be hosting a celebration of this, inspired by a decision by our bishops 20 years ago, which continues to lead us today towards ecological conversion and action. Bishop Shane on behalf of the Bishops of Australia and Sue Martin, on behalf of Catholic Earthcare Australia, will cut together the anniversary cake.
Mention that Bishop Vincent Long has been a very good friend to Catholic Earthcare and is an apology for today. So I just wanted to share that.
I might say that's not just because Bishop Vincent's a nice bloke and interested in these sort of things. He's also the chair of the Bishops' Commission for Social Justice and therefore the delegate to Caritas Australia. So, but he is a nice bloke too.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.